Now, because we're doing it that way, we don't have a lactose substream. We don't have a cheese substream. We don't have calcium, any of that kind of stuff. We're only getting what we want.
Yes.
What's going on, everyone? Today we have Kyle Failla,
That's correct.
Director of Sales at Perfect Day. For those who do not know what Perfect Day is, Kyle is here to explain. And today we're going to be talking about protein. Because we've seen it go up, we've seen it affect brands, and we just want to learn more about protein.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us, brother.
Man, looking forward to it, man. I've been watching the NuLiv team for quite some time. I obviously known you guys for a couple years, but just want to commend you guys on what you guys have been doing because, I started my career at Glanbia Nutritionals, was there for 7 years, and to see some of these B2B companies come up and kind of just put their own spin on it, much more progressive, much more interesting in my opinion, having podcasts, social media presences, cool tour shirts, all that kind of stuff. I really, really like what you guys are doing. And as the guy on the Perfect Day team that's kind of leading the charge in terms of what direction we're going, I look at what you guys are doing, and I'm definitely taking some notes on what you guys are doing. So really, really cool, and really excited to talk about the protein market and kind of dive into what everybody's feeling is the pricing increases. Is it going to keep going up?
But
all that kind of stuff.
We'll touch on that, and thank you for that. I think one approach we have is make it fun, and also make it that the consumer understands it. And if we could make it whatever we could do to the consumer goes, I know that ingredient, I know why it's in that label. That's what we're trying to do. And then from what I see, you're a California boy. You see, I think it's somewhat obviously it's not just something that's done on the West Coast, but it sometimes seems a little more natural for us to lean into the entertainment part of it. Sure. I don't know if it's just a West Coast thing that
sure,
is living
sure.
it,
It's an LA thing, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I think on the social media side, right? Like we living in Los Angeles or living in, on the coastal cities of California, that's a big part of life. We see people, we work with brands too, right? I think I look at just the brands that we work with, right? Their social media presence, you got to take note at like, man, whatever they're doing is working. Yes. Why aren't we incorporating that into the B2B space? Yeah. Right. I think when, I would ask that question at the Glanbia marketing team, and it was just very, that's not where our customer is. It's on LinkedIn, but at the same time, look, you got to, like you mentioned, there's a big education piece with these bioactives, with these trademark ingredients. And I think I think it's also a good idea to kind of share those wins with your customers. I mean, your customers' wins are your wins. Yeah. So, and I think your customers appreciate that too, right? When you share that stuff.
And to your take on social media, everyone's on there, whether you're on there shopping, being entertained, killing time, learning. Everyone has a different scope of how they use social media. But the way we look at it, you go, why not be there? If when we're growing up, if it was the mall and we wanted to have, hey, this is a little kiosk that teaches about ingredients. Hey, that's where everyone is. So that's the way we've kind of approached it.
Yeah.
Can we? It's easy for us to assume like that knowledge, but I think can we explain to the end user the general protein market from the business side, right? Explaining WPC, WPI, the different grades.
Sure.
Like what goes into what. For example, I know WPC 30 goes usually into like lower grade food products, right?
Correct. Yeah. So you can think of dairy proteins or whey proteins in general as kind of take the example of you going to the gas station, right? Like you go to the gas station, there's different octane fuels that you use, right? Yeah. So the way that I like to explain it is just like that. You got WPC 80, which is something that is 80% protein. It's going to be kind of your octane 86 or something. That's what you're putting into your Toyota Camry or something like that, right? I drive a Toyota. And then you got the WPI, which is going to be something more like an octane 92. It's something in the middle. It's a very, very high-end protein. protein, highly digestible, less lactose, less fat, all that kind of stuff. It's more filtered, so much more concentrated. And then you have stuff that kind of goes beyond that. And like, for instance, the Perfect Day protein, I would say, kind of goes even one step further from the purification process. What we're doing is we're fermenting beta-lactoglobulin, which is the largest component of whey protein isolate. It's also got the highest amount of leucine. It's 37% more leucine, more branched-chain amino acids. It has absolutely no lactose, no fat, no cholesterol. So you're kind of taking it to the next level.
Octane 101.
Yeah, that's going that jet fuel,
When
that's
you're
what we're
saying
looking at.
filter, can you explain filtering? Like, are you just like getting rid of the byproduct?
Yeah, so yeah, when you think about traditional dairy producers, right, what they're doing is they're taking milk and they're filtering out, they're basically, their production facilities is this. It's when whey protein was first made, they made it and they were making it because of cheese. They wanted cheese, right? So the cheese is a byproduct of the whey protein process. So when a dairy producer like Glanbia goes out there and makes whey protein concentrate or whey protein isolate, what they're getting as substreams is cheese. They're getting calcium that's getting filtered out. That's part of the process. Getting lactose that's getting filtered out. So those are kind of considered other things that those companies have to sell, actually. So Glanbia was the biggest producer of American-style cheese. Leprino is the biggest producer of mozzarella. Those are parts of their business that they have to do in order to get the whey protein. It's just now that whey protein is so popular, the dynamic has switched, right? Whereas 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was all about the cheese. The cheese was making the business a lot of money. Now it's the whey protein that's making the money. Those are the kind of the byproducts you're getting from that manufacturing process. But it's all part of the filtration. So as you filter down from a whey protein concentrate, or filter from a whey protein concentrate to an isolate, again, you're removing more lactose, you're moving more calcium, and those are some of the substreams that you're getting as residuals.
Wait. So to make protein, you have to make cheese first?
Correct. Yeah. So milk is.
So from a business standpoint, they couldn't make up. Let's say obviously the whey is going up, but don't they also just generate more from the cheese? I would think it's a bigger market.
So yeah. So that's it's a balance, right? So that's part of the whey market is, these subcomponents that are coming off the stream. So cheese, for instance, some years absolutely crushes it. They're making bank. There's other years where they're making no money. They're giving it away.
I see what you mean.
Same with butter. Butter, I know, is having a hard time right now. I think I just heard that it was down 20% from where it was just a few months ago. But butter is another one that kind of sometimes influences the marketplace. Lactose and calcium are two things that come off and are pretty cheap. Again, these are things that are almost problems. They got to get rid of them.
Yes.
So one thing to kind of put that, side by side with Perfect Day is what Perfect Day is doing is, instead of taking milk and turning it into whey protein isolate, we're implementing a fermentation process where we ferment sugar with a microorganism, and that microorganism basically prints out the amino acid profile of beta-lactoglobulin. Now, because we're doing it that way, we don't have a lactose substream, we don't have a cheese substream, we don't have calcium, any of that kind of stuff. We're only getting what we want.
Yes.
So that's kind of the beauty of the precision fermentation piece, is we're kind of going for the cream of the crop, and we don't have to worry about some of the other stuff that comes along with it.
Are you using WPI as your base for the fermentation process then?
No. So what we're using is, it's a technology called precision fermentation, and precision fermentation is just like traditional fermentation. So we talked about how you like beer. It's the same process as beer or wine. It's just more precise, right? So when you take wine, for instance, you take grapes, you smash those grapes up, you get juice. What is a big part of juice? Sugar. And typically what's on top of these grapes is there's natural yeasts that are on top that are just naturally, in nature. And what happens is what people found out is, if you smash these grapes up and you make grape juice and you throw it into a container, and if it sits long enough, it starts to taste a little bit funny, and we kind of get a little bit of a buzz off of it. Now, what's actually happening there is fermentation. So fermentation at its simplest form is taking that grape juice, that sugar, it's putting it next to or with those yeast. The yeast is then eating the sugar, and the byproduct of the yeast metabolism is alcohol. And alcohol happens to preserve things. So at Perfect Day, what we did is we took that same exact kind of preface. Precision fermentation has been a technology that's been in the industry for a very, very long time. Actually, cheese rennet is made via fermentation. Insulin is made via fermentation. It's a big part of the pharmaceutical industry as well as in the nutritional ingredient industry. I mean, enzymes are made via fermentation. Amino acids, right? We all remember when vegan amino acids became a big thing, right? Oh, the amino acids from China are made from feathers and hair, right? And we want a vegan fermented amino acid, right? That's cleaner. I mean, you could look at even things like big ingredients, right, that are out there, like cytocholine is made via fermentation, right? So vitamin K2, natural vitamin K2. So it's a technology that's been in the industry for a long time. It's just never been adopted for large macromolecules like dairy protein. So our founders went out and they were two vegan Indian guys who were like, man, we miss ice cream. We miss our milk. I wish we could have that product. And so they went out and they took that precision fermentation technology and they implemented it for this dairy protein. And it's as simple as that, right? We have big fermentation tanks. They're, 4 stories tall. You put sugar, a water solution basically into these tanks. You inoculate it with our specific microorganism. That's really our black box. That's what makes us different than everybody else, is we've developed and designed a microorganism that not only makes beta-lactoglobulin, but it does it efficiently enough to get the price down so that customers can actually purchase it. So once that microorganism is in the fermentation tank, it eats the sugar. And what is a protein, essentially? It's the building blocks of a protein are amino acids. If you put those amino acids in the right order, you have the fingerprint of the protein you want. So that's all that microorganism is doing. It's just printing out those amino acids into the chain. Okay, beta-lac cut, another one. Nice. And then from there, from the fermentation piece, once the fermentation's done, the downstream process is exactly the same as standard dairy. So it just goes through microfiltration. It gets concentrated down. We filter out all of the microorganism. It's only pure high-protein permeate that then gets turned into a powder. And then you get a product like this brick house whey here, which is something we brought to show, and we'll allow you guys to taste if you'd like. It's always a big question, right? Does it taste? What does it taste like?
Like protein?
Yeah, does it taste like dairy? Does it taste like whey, or does it taste? We've in the alternative protein space. For the past 10 years, it's been about plant-based, right? Big push on plant-based. I think that's starting to get pulled back a little bit, just because customers are becoming more educated about protein quality, about some of those things, as well as they're just not as functional as dairy proteins, right? Like, and we'll talk about some of the applications that dairy is just amazing at, and that's why we decided to go with dairy protein, is because we really think that they're the best proteins out there.
Well, when you're talking about protein quality, right? Was it PDCAA?
PDCAS, yeah.
Yeah, PDCAS, right? And the very top is gonna be whey. It's like, I think there's nothing out there that could substitute for whey protein.
Correct. I mean, whey protein, again, when you're looking at PDCAS scores, it's a big part of it. I think some people use other quantitative assays as well. I think there's one called DIAS as well. So it's really just whatever one of your guys are kind of wanting to use. But from that perspective, I think, dairy is always the number one. Egg protein is always really high up there. I think there's some other proteins that are becoming more popular that maybe don't have the highest PDCAS scores. But again, I think you got to put it into perspective, right? Like, if you were just going to be consuming dairy protein and that was the only part of your diet, then PDCAS is going to be a big part of that. But if you're eating a normal diet and you're supplements, right, like you should be, you should be getting all the amino acids you need. But we'll get into some of the stuff that people are doing. They're trying to combat some of the dairy market issues, and there's definitely some stuff built around that.
So right now we're seeing WPC, WPI at all-time highs. I think I saw someone post that WPC 80 just crossed $10 a kilogram. Is that true?
Yeah, well, yeah, way. It's been past that for a minute. So, I mean, WPC 80 right now, if you're lucky, you're buying it under $8 a pound. That anything under $8 a pound, buy it right now. Don't even think about it. Just take it because it'll go up next week. That's just how the
3 years
market's
ago, that was
been.
maybe $3.50 a pound.
Yeah, so we've seen a huge
Oh, wow.
increase in price across the board for whey concentrates and whey isolate. I think it was about 2 years ago at Supply Side West, we saw the flip. I think it went from about WPIs in the fours, and it jumped into the 550 range. And I remember people were coming up to me at the show, Kyle, what's going on? Like the price just went up $1 like in a day. And that was kind of when it all kind of started. And it has just continually gone up. And I think people have been, hoping, that the pricing would come back down, or it was just going to be a short-term thing. But unfortunately, it's turned into a much more long-term thing. And
What's WPI now?
WPI prices are going to be in the range. And again, we're going to talk about different versions of WPI, right? So WPI, if you're buying standard instant sunflower less than WPI, you're looking at about $12 a pound right now.
Sorry.
Oh, you're
Ignore
good.
that.
Probably for Q1, right? We're talking not
right
like,
now.
if you bought it 2 months ago, you probably had a better price in the 11s. But we're talking like if you're going to buy in Q1 or you're trying to pick up in Q2, you're looking at $12 right now for WPI. So very, very, very high. If you're looking now, let's take that to the next level. Hey, I want clear whey, right? For my protein soda, we have some protein sodas here. We have some protein shots. That is a category that's absolutely exploding,
Yes.
right? With players like MacroCap kind of finally going all in on this protein soda stuff. It's just, you're seeing them in Costco, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, the number one thing I'm getting on the Perfect Day side are brands coming to us saying, we need clear whey. We can't get enough of it. We're doing crazy sales. The velocities are nuts, but we cannot get enough of this protein. So that's a category that's just absolutely, I mean, there's so much growth left in that category, I think. And as soon as there's more of that clear whey on the market, it'll help it out a lot. But
What's Clearway at right now?
clear whey, yeah, man. Yeah, you're moving up the
$14?
value chain. Yeah, for sure. You're looking at probably, $14 to $15 a pound. Some of the brands, like for instance, Pure Genius here, these shots, right? They're actually using an acidified BLG, which is an Arla product. Excellent product. I mean, Arla makes some of the best clear wheys on the market. There's no question about it. They're definitely the gold standard when it comes to clear whey. But yeah, I mean, they're probably buying that close to $30 a kilo, so
Oh, wow.
$15 or so, right? So I mean, the market is extremely tight. So not only are the prices high, but you have customers willing to pay those prices, and they're like, we can't even get it to you. So it's quite nuts. We've never seen anything like it, for sure.
Do you see this as more of a supply issue or a demand issue?
Yeah, it's both.
Both.
It's definitely both. So when you take a look at why we're starting to see, why we're seeing what we're seeing, it's both of those things. So one thing that they've been talking about in the dairy industry for quite some time, even before this pricing kind of started to flip, was the milk market. Now that's what you got to start with, right, to make dairy proteins is milk. So the milk market hasn't been keeping up from a supply standpoint with the demand of dairy proteins. So say, for instance, if the milk market's growing by 3 or 4% a year, but the whey protein market's growing by 10, the producers can deal with that for some time because they have inventory, right? So you have warehouses full of WPI, and you can kind of deal with the fact that you're kind of digging yourself a hole every year. But as soon as that inventory is gone and you've run through it, now the price starts to tick up, right? So we've seen that in the US. We've seen it even more in Europe. And when we look at, I mean, from the European perspective, right, that's a much smaller area, much less cows. The other thing is it's much harder to build manufacturing plants, both in the U.S. and in Europe from a regulatory perspective, as well as just from a cost perspective. So even if you wanted to build a new plant, you still got to have milk to run through the plant. So, so I mean, that's a big part of it is the lag that we're seeing with the milk market, but also on the demand side, right? The customer just has grown so substantially. So if we take a step back and we look at where the protein market has come from, right? When I started taking protein powder, it was only bodybuilders, it was only athletes, it was muscle milk, right? Or whatever, your BSN, Synthesix, back in the day. But that market has gone from bodybuilders who are early adopters of everything, right? To now your everyday workout person who does CrossFit. To your grandparents, right? So we've gotten to the point where your grandparents are now consuming protein because what they've been told is, hey, look, sarcopenia is a big problem as you age and you're not processing protein as well. You need more protein than you did when you were younger. So that's building a whole new market. You're also seeing innovation in applications. Like I said, so I mean, we've never seen protein sodas before. We've never seen clear whey be so popular. Why are those things becoming more popular? Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the customer base, either one, growing significantly. So we now have women drinking more protein. We have, other men drinking protein. We have older people drinking protein. And there's a little bit of a fatigue, I think, with chocolate vanilla, my protein bars chocolate, everything's the same. So I like the idea of having these different flavor profiles. And I think that's why it's resonating with customers and different formats of these products. The GLP-1 users, right, are becoming a big part of this market as well. So there's just a lot of innovation on that front. You're also, I mean, one other thing that people don't think about is Glanbia, for instance, was a big early adopter of doing this. Was, when you look at a protein company, a dairy company, right? They have a value chain that you're trying to drive the customer up, right? So the bottom of that value chain is ready to mix protein powders. That's very commoditized. It's the cheapest protein you can buy.
Is this
it's
even WPC?
Yeah, it is WPC. It's WPI, but it's instantized sunflower. It's the standard stuff. I can
Just
buy
flavor it.
I can buy Glambias. I can buy Hilmar. I can buy Milk Specialties. I can buy Leprino. They're all pretty much the same, right? Now, what Glanbia started to think about and has been copied by a lot of people is they said, well, let's start making more black boxed specialty proteins. So they started to do a lot of research into bar development, protein bars. Now, when you get into these more complex systems of proteins, so you're slamming 20 grams of protein into a bar with 20 grams of fiber and no carbs and all that stuff. How do you get it to not be a brick or taste like crap, right? Now I don't know if you guys remember the first Quest bars, but those are okay. But they've gotten better, I think, over time.
I still like the OG Quest bars.
No, I do too, but I think that they've steadily improved, like year over year. I think Quest is one of the best R&D teams out there who doesn't rest on their laurels. They're always getting better. So that's one thing I commend them for. But again, those protein systems are, since they're much more challenging, Glanbia would go out, they'd do a special blend, and they'd say, this really works well in a Quest style bar, but we're going to charge you $1 more. Now, once you put that into your product, it's hard to reformulate it. Right. So it's a stickier solution, which allows them obviously to have a better business. And then on top of that, you get into the RTD category. It's the same thing. I want a clear whey. I need it to taste a certain way. I need a certain clarity. I need a certain pH. I need it to not fall out of solution when I get to 20 grams of protein. I need it to be heat stable. All these types of things you're solving for, that adds value. So what's going on now, right, is because these applications are getting so widespread. For instance, you have protein cereal as a good example. Protein chips. You can't go out and just reformulate your protein cereal and expect it to taste the same, right? It might turn into a rock, right? So as the protein prices go up, you're kind of sitting there and you're going, well, I don't know what to do. right? Whereas before, when it's just protein powders, you go, I'll just put more WPC in it. We'll just put the cheaper protein in it, right? And so you could kind of rebalance the market. So, but because this market has expanded so much and the customers have gotten so big and the applications have gotten so, so expansive, it's becoming harder for the market to kind of rebalance itself a little bit, I think.
So basically, this is like a chicken and egg thing, but it all ties back to our kids drinking enough milk. So with enough milk production, then we have subsequent protein production.
Yeah, we need more cows, we need more milk, all that kind of stuff.
And can't just print cows, can't print farmers.
Yeah, exactly, man. And again, that's kind of a thing again when to come back to the perfect day story, right? On the perfect day side, when you're just working with sugar, we're looking for sugar and we're looking for energy. That's basically the two things. And so the beauty of precision fermentation is that you're decoupling yourself from the dairy industry. And that's why the brands that we're currently working with are really interested in what we're doing, is because, it's been a story we've been telling for a long time about, hey, look, say 3 years ago when I started at Perfect Day, the protein prices were in the dumps. And I would tell them, look, man, I've been at Glanbia where the protein prices are $7-8. It's going to come back, and nobody cares when it's not there. But now that we're ripped back, man, it's like it's an arms race for a Perfect Day.
So for a Perfect Day, do you try to stay in the same price competitive as whey, or if whey goes up, you go up too?
So yeah, it's a good question. So what we're trying to do is again, one thing that differentiating factor is that we are selling a BLG protein, which is again what we talked about from the octane fuels, right? It's the highest octane you can possibly buy. So we're never going to compare ourselves directly to just standard instantized whey protein isolate, although our product can perform that way. But we do think we have a different value proposition that's stronger than just a standard whey. You get a whole new story to talk about, this fermentation story, this animal cruelty story, this sustainability story, this leucine, higher leucine, all this kind of stuff, right? Not to mention our protein is highly, highly soluble and highly clear. So that's why these clear beverages are something that are going to be, again, a big, big part of what Perfect Day is doing. We're going to kind of specialize in a lot of that stuff. But yeah, from a pricing perspective, what Perfect Day is trying to do is we're today, if the customers that are working with me on Clear Whey, they're getting a better deal than the market.
Interesting.
Now, if the market completely flips and goes down to $5, I'm not racing to the bottom. That's not my thing, right? So,
the customers are still sports cars, the ones they've been buying.
Yeah, well, and again, what we're offering customers is peace of mind. Your protein price isn't going to go up every week. Mm-hmm. We're going to give you clarity on your price point. We have
a SKU they can build out.
Yeah, so it's something where, like, again, we're never going to be the cheapest protein on the market. We're never going to be really the most expensive. We're going to be right there somewhere in the middle. And I think customers appreciate that because, again, if they have visibility into what their input costs are going to be on their SKUs, they can plan around that and they can understand, okay, am I going to hit my revenue target this year? Am I going to hit my profitability mark? Yeah, right? Because, I mean, the joke I always make when I pitch Perfect Days protein is if there's a large group of people there, I say, hey, is anybody here in purchasing? And there's always one purchasing guy or whatever. They know the purchasing person. I go, look, man, you got the hardest job in your company. You got to look into your crystal ball and you got to come up with what the WPI price is going to be next year or next month. And if you're wrong, people are pissed at you. Yes. They are pissed.
Speaking of crystal ball, where do you see protein going the next 3 years? It's just going to keep going up and up and up?
3 years it's tough to project that far out. I do think that we're definitely probably in a new normal. Now, what does that mean? I don't think protein prices are just going to go up exponentially forever. There's a breaking point. We're starting to see some of the cracks in the market. You're starting to see brands, right, look to reformulate or try different proteins. The other thing that people aren't thinking about is from a credit line perspective, right? It gets really hard for brands and for contract manufacturers and for suppliers to have a credit line to support. Say you have a contract manufacturer that buys 100 loads of protein from you, and those loads have gone up from $150,000 to $200,000 a load to $500,000 a load.
Are these 20-foot containers, 40-foot?
Yeah, we're talking just full truckloads, right? So 42,000 pounds.
You said from 150 to 500? Wow.
Yeah. Imagine that each truckload is getting close. Say you have a Clearway or something, right? Yeah. Getting close to $500,000. Not only is Glambia floating $500,000 in a customer,
man, they're a bank.
Yeah, but also your contract manufacturer is floating the brand $500,000.
Yeah.
And so there are some concerns with, hey, like, what happens when the customer short pays the contract manufacturer short pays the supplier gets pissed, right? So that's definitely a concern. I know, again, from my experience at Glambia, the credit lines were always a pain in my butt. It was always like I had the growth, but you didn't have the credit line to support the growth. So I can only imagine what it's like now with these protein prices twice as high as what they usually are.
Are customers forgiving on price increase? I would think like they look at everything around them seeing going up in price. So they 100%. Forgive it at that.
100%. I think the inflationary issues that we've seen over the past few years have definitely played into the fact that, you know, you go to the grocery store. I mean, you can't walk out of the grocery store without spending $100.
Right.
You know, I mean, you didn't get anything and you spend $100. So I think that's a big part of it. I think, again, that's why when I look at this market and we look forward, I don't think it's just going to go up forever. I think that you'll start to see some rebalancing in price. But the question is there a new normal here? So, like, if I'm a protein soda brand and I'm paying $15 a pound for my Clearway, at what point do I go, man, I'm getting a great deal now? Is it $10 a pound? Yeah. Is it $9? Because that's still really high in historical, range, right? But so what could happen is you know the market could come back down to $9 and people could be pumped, and you start to see the innovation start to kick back up, and then again the customer now so used to buying it at these high prices, everybody's still making money, that kind of stuff. It also boils down to how these brands are approaching how they're doing pricing. So some brands we work with have dynamic pricing, right? So it goes up if the protein price goes up, and other brands don't. So
you mean to the retail consumer?
Yeah. So like if you have an online store,
they're
right?
Ubering it.
Yeah. So if you exactly, it's surge charge. But yeah, if you have an online store and your protein price went up from $5 to $12, they're dynamically changing their price online to reflect that.
Have you heard of any pushback from consumers? Because they're seeing their protein change in real time, right? The protein prices.
Yeah. So the only thing that I can really point out is what I've heard from certain brands. So for instance, a brand now might be making just-in-time inventory as opposed to just stocking a bunch of protein to stock it. I haven't heard anything specifically. That'd be a good question for some of the brands.
From the smaller brands I talk to, they're like, there's no point of
not even getting
going
into
it because that's when you really need a special flavor because no one's picking up, like you said, your chocolate.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. So you're not seeing anybody get into protein, right? You're seeing brands who have been legacy brands in protein trying to figure it out. They're using dynamic pricing. Yeah. They have, their Costco, whatever brand out there. But yeah, I think protein has never really been the cash cow for a business, right?
That's true.
Protein is always the foundational supplement you use, and then you build off of it.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do too. We have some up and coming studies that will be published soon on protein absorption, but we're trying to see from a formulator standpoint, how do we make every gram count?
Yeah. So this is something, again, when I talk to my customers and what I'm starting to see is exactly that. So I think that there's definitely going to be a pivot into a couple different things. Either there's going to be a new marketing story around quality of protein, as well as like what you're mentioning, ingredients that can help absorption, or you actually utilize that protein better. So that gives the brand an opportunity to move a lever in their formulation, right? You got two levers to move in your formulation. You can either move your protein per serving down to, bring your cost down, or you can do less servings. How do you justify that change? Is you have an ingredient, and maybe maybe you should tell us a little bit about the ingredient that you guys have for this, because again, I think from a brand marketing standpoint, that's going to be something we see. So, are you alluding to astragin? And
yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, we're just pending publication right now, but we do see an increase in absorption of protein.
Yeah. So I love the idea of that. Again, one other thing I think will work well is protein plus.
Mm-hmm.
So having showcasing the customer value, right? So you might be able to do a protein stick pack, which stick packs have become a lot more popular. Different use occasion. Maybe it's a clear whey in a stick pack, but then maybe you're adding astragin and you're saying, hey, look, we're giving you 10 grams of protein here, but it's a high quality protein like Perfect Day with higher leucine,
yeah.
and then plus we're adding astragin to improve the absorption, so you're getting every gram. And you're utilizing it that way. Plus, you can get into stuff where you do protein plus hydration with astragin, protein, kind of more of how pre-workouts kind of iterate, right?
That's
protein plus energy.
That's where
all that kind of stuff.
With protein prices elevated, I see first of all, you're always going to have your there's no diss to them, like your 6 stars, right?
Yeah.
Commodity proteins. But at the upper echelon proteins, there's only so many flavor iterations you can do, right?
Yeah.
So it goes back to what you said earlier, protein plus, right? Is it protein with digestive enzymes plus maybe extra little creatine, or protein plus a specialty ingredient like, I don't know, KSM 66 or something along the lines, or astragin senactiv, like how Panda does it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the only logical step if you're gonna have high protein prices.
But that seems like it would be more for the sports nutrition fan or the athlete, because the typical person is now in the chips, in the coffee, in the cold foam like Starbucks.
But I think too, though, right, you get these GLP-1 users, right? So, for instance, Pure Genius is a great product for GLP-1 users. Super small. I'm not hungry. But I need my protein. I can shoot back 23 grams of protein real quick. Same, I think, for some of these dual benefit products, because what are some of the headaches that these GLP-1 users have is they have digestion issues, right? Because their digestive tract's slowing down, so digestive enzymes or something along absorption. They're also, again, maybe, they're full. So how do we get them as much protein or more effectiveness of protein? Maybe they're a little more tired because their calorie deficit's lower. So I think there's a whole line of products you could do for GLP-1 where you're utilizing some of these bioactives with protein, and you're able to kind of balance that equation of protein plus a secondary benefit where the brands now see value in that. And I don't think, as popular as these GLP-1 stuff has been, I still haven't seen, I can't pick out one brand where I'm like, oh, they're crushing it in GLP-1. Mm-hmm. I don't really know. So maybe that's still a pretty big marketplace.
So this has always been one of my curiosities. When you take a protein bar, is it mostly WPC 80? So when they say isolate, it's just isolates kind of like the Pixie does, right?
Yeah. So on the protein bar side, again, like we talked about, it's a much more complex system. So typically what we actually see is we see most brands straying away from whey protein concentrates, and they're utilizing more milk protein isolates as well as whey protein isolates. A lot of brands use collagen now. So David Bar uses collagen. They use isolates.
As their protein?
As a protein, yeah. So if you look kind of at, we'll pick out a couple different brands and we'll see what they're doing. So Quest Bar originally, they kind of worked, and their whole formulation was they only used milk protein isolate and whey protein isolate. That's only the proteins they used. They've since deviated from that because I think they go, we've kind of boxed ourselves in. We can't innovate as much as we'd like. So they've since kind of gotten outside of that box, which I think is good. But then, when Quest sold, the founders, a lot of the founders of Quest went over to Legendary Foods. And what has Legendary Foods done? They go, well, let's get rid of that box. Let's use whatever tool we have. They're very much into technology and very much into whatever tool they can use to make the best product possible. So they've used collagen, they've used whey protein isolate, milk proteins in different applications to get different textures, different formats, right? The protein pastries, donuts, those things are a lot easier to do when you have a larger toolbox. So to answer your question, it just depends on the application or whatever you're looking for from, do I want it to taste like a donut? Do I want it to taste like a brownie or a protein bar? And then each protein has its own functionality, profile. So like if you were going to go heavy whey protein isolate or concentrate, it might be a chewier bar. You might kind of give you a jaw workout, right? Okay. Longer chews, right? You might have a little bit of a jaw pain. But if you mix the WPI with MPI might have a shorter chew. So you might be like cutting through a little bit. So the combination together gives you the experience that you want the customer to have. On top of that, like we talked about, the biggest thing that these bar brands are combating is shelf life. So you might be able to pull a bar off the line and taste it, and if you ever have, they're the best. Right off the line, grade A, perfect.
Are they
soft, beautiful?
Are they hot and warm too? Like
not oven? Yeah, not always, but they're definitely the best they can possibly be. And as they sit on the shelf, what happens is you get migration of the macromolecules. So what I mean by that is like goes to like. So the fat in the bar migrates towards the fat in the bar, the carbohydrates in the bar start to pool towards the carbohydrates in the bar, the protein starts to pool towards the protein. And what that starts to do is it starts to make your bar hard or turn into a brick or have some problems from a texture taste standpoint. So again, what a lot of these producers have done is they've basically figured out ways to keep the bar super homogeneous, softer for longer, all this kind of stuff. And that's really what these bar brands are trying to do is they want it to taste good when it comes off the line, but it needs to taste good after 12 months too. Yeah. Right? So it's a really challenging
What's the most innovative product you've seen hit the market this year at least?
Oh, man.
In the protein sector.
Yeah, in the protein sector. I mean, honestly, I really love the Genius shots.
Yeah.
I like what they're doing with these high protein
23
grams is no joke. I think the protein sodas again I'm still
on the fence on the protein sodas.
What's your
you know what it is every time I drink it I remember the Isopure clear, and then that one was always a turnoff. So it's like my mind's still trying to forget that.
Yeah.
If I taste Jack Daniels, I hate Jack Daniels. Okay. But I love whiskey.
So you don't like the astringency of Clear Whey, or you don't like the tartness or something? Yeah. So that's always been kind of the thing that we've battled with these Clear Wheys, because that's just naturally how they taste. Now, there has been some development work, and Perfect Day has this as well, and Arla as well, as they have the water shake. Perfect Day has a clear neutral, we call it, where traditionally when you have a Clear Whey, it has to be at a pH in the 3.3 range or the 4.2 range in order to be clear. That is what's providing that tartness, that mouth drying effect, is the acidity. But what BLG, beta-lactoglobulin, can do, and because we're making it via fermentation and there's no lactose, fat, any turbidity in that product, is it'll be clear in an RTD that's actually at a neutral pH. So a neutral pH being around 7, right? Typically that's a pH range that you can only do muscle milk, right?
Yes.
Chocolatey, milky, that's where you've had to play. We can now do a neutral clear protein that allows you to do this whole different flavor palette. So you could do protein tea. Tea is never really tart. It's just kind of this soft flavor profile, like a raspberry tea. Like if you've tried I like the Liquid Death teas. Those are pretty good. If you tried those, they're kind of a little softer of a flavor profile. It's also a lot more refreshing. So you mentioned like the tartness and the acidity kind of turn you off. It may be hard to drink a full one because it's just like too much. With these neutral ones, I think you can get closer to a watery flavor profile, which I like the idea, honestly, of doing like a like a flavored water protein, or like a LaCroix, right? Like one of these kind of sparkling waters, which is softer. These are still acidic, to be honest, but if you could get a flavor profile like this, I've always liked the idea of doing a LaCroix or something, a style beverage with 5 grams of protein. And just because I drink like 10 of them a day.
I was about to ask you, what would be the ideal product? Come on, someone make it.
Yeah. No,
sparkling water with like 5 grams.
Liquid Death make this.
Yeah, so that's the trick, right? So there's some other things you got to battle. I mean, so all these protein beverages that are clear, the shots, the sodas, all that kind of stuff, majority of them are cold fill, high acid. So what that means is their pH is below 3.3 always. So that's what keeps them shelf stable without heat treatment. Most beverages have to have heat treatment in order to kill off the microorganisms and then kind of extend the shelf life. So these are all cold fill, is what they call them, acidified beverages. But with pH neutral, you can't cold fill it because it doesn't have the pH to basically hold the quality.
Have to pasteurize it?
So yeah, you'd have to pasteurize. You'd have to do some sort of aseptic processing, which then it kind of limits. That's more of a limitation on the production side. So, for instance, like if you were like Glanbia used to own an aseptic plant, you'd have to run 1 million units just for them to even look at you. So now the entry in might be tougher, let alone if you want to get into really high numbers. Like, the biggest aseptic producer is Niagara Bottling. Actually, they're actually over here in Diamond Bar, but their operation, they build a new plant every few years, and they won't even look at you unless you're doing like 20 million or 30 million units a year.
I found out about aseptic production through Viren because they were telling me when they're making certain products, the FDA treats them like if they're making canned tuna. So like it's like that's why the minimums are so high because the quality. I guess the I don't know. I guess it's a royal pain in the butt.
Yeah, I mean, beverage production's super challenging. Let's be real. And what they're thinking about is efficiencies on their line. That's their math that they're doing. They're saying, look, if we're only going to run 10,000 units, it's a waste of our time because now we got to do a line changeover. We got to change parts for the next bottle maybe coming on the line. So they're looking to make their line as efficient as possible, and they'll pay people and consultants to come in to try to make their line even faster. It's all about bottle throughput. Any specialized thing that a customer wants that screws up their efficiencies is going to be reflected in their cost. So on the aseptic side, it's just an expensive process. On top of that, but it's a high quality process. Right. So when we think about any heat treated beverages, you have stuff that's like retorts that's like how your Campbell's soup is made. Yeah. They'll like just destroy it, right? Like they'll way overheat treat it, but it affects the quality of the product. Whereas aseptic is high temperature, short time. So it's it basically will take the liquid down into a really fine stream. It'll heat that stream up to a certain temperature really fast. 30 seconds, and then it'll cool it off immediately. So that means you have a much higher quality product because there's less heat treatment involved.
You're preserving the original.
Yeah. So the faster you can, just like with freezing, right? If you can freeze dry something super fast, then the quality of the product's better. So it's the same on the heat treatment side. You want to minimize how long the heat is being, or the product's being exposed to the heat. So that's why aseptic's a little bit more premium. You can put them in better bottles. Okay. So if you want to know if something's aseptically treated, go to Whole Foods, pick up the bottle, and if you can squeeze it and it's kind of soft, that's an aseptic bottle. It's a thinner bottle. If you go try Prime, what's Prime's bottle feel like? It's hard, right? You can't squeeze it. That's a hot fill bottle. It's different. It's got to be a more robust bottle because it's hotter for longer. Yeah. So
man, I've never thought about as a food scientist, you're like, no, dude, I'm telling you, this is the best product I can possibly make. But when you get to it, it might not be. It's almost like a restaurant. I made it fresh, but by the time you came to pick it up, it's not as fresh.
That's always what you're battling.
You're telling me every hot fill bottle I've been drinking extra microplastics?
Yeah, man, that's a whole nother podcast, I think. There.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's man. I mean, we're talking about the protein industry, but another big one that's kind of hit us recently is heavy metals, right? Do you see all those
Oh,
things
yes.
come out about heavy metals?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, people have talked about this already, so we won't get into it a ton. But at the end of the day, they took a bunch of protein powders, they tested them for heavy metals. Some were higher than others.
Consumer Reports, right?
Yeah, and it was kind of an unfair thing, right? They're comparing apples to oranges half the time.
The
They're
muscle gainers. I'm like, you're using so many grams, right?
Yeah, and you're taking a chocolate flavor is going to have cocoa powder. Cocoa powder has more heavy metals. So if you're comparing a cocoa powder chocolate powder to vanilla, it's going to be different. Now, I think it was some of the brands did great. I think I want to say Owen for plant-based, right? Plant-based is typically where you see most heavy metals, or same with beef or some of this other stuff that's more. Anything coming out of the ground, like for plants, is going to have heavy metals. But yeah, I think that was something that we've gotten a lot of recent traffic on. Was how's your heavy metals, and we have to send the data on.
Well, that's a good thing
But
because they're inquiring, and now you're like, actually, we're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, you shouldn't have heavy metals as a fermented.
You do. You still do. So,
The starting source.
Yeah. So I think you get a little bit. Also, to some of the, you do have to add some certain things to the fermentation, just like call it like a multivitamin for the microorganism.
Black box.
Yeah. It's the black box.
It's
guys.
proprietary.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's less of a big issue for us, especially in comparison to like plant-based or something like that. We're right in line with what you would see from a standard whey protein typically.
Are most brands using Perfect Day protein as a whey substitute, or to position it as a plant-based protein?
So most of them are whey. So the reason why we position our protein as a dairy protein is it is a dairy protein, right? So it does have a dairy allergen. It is, from an amino acid perspective, the same as beta-lactoglobulin that you would get from cows. So your body recognizes it as such. So still, if you have a dairy allergen, or if you have an intolerance to milk, this product might not be the greatest for you. Now, I'd argue too that a lot of people that have dairy allergens don't know specifically why they have a dairy allergen. Some say lactose, right? Our product, if you're lactose intolerant, our product will work for you because it's 100% lactose free. It's the only protein on the market that it will be 100% lactose free, or at least dairy protein. All dairy proteins have some residual lactose in them. Now, why brands will say lactose free or whatever on their product is they can't. The test method for lactose is limited to how many parts per million it can pick up. So they're just saying we can't pick up any of it, although there still could be some there. So you, if you're super, super sensitive to lactose, you could still have problems with whey protein isolate, which is a lot of people say is lactose free. But for our product, since it doesn't come from cows, it can't have any lactose. It's a milk sugar. So we cannot get that in our product. So that's why it's zero. But yeah, so all brands are utilizing it as a dairy protein. We try to stay away from marketing it as a plant-based or some alternative, right? Because again, from an allergen standpoint, it's the same. So it becomes a challenge to communicate.
Yeah, and then it's an uphill battle trying to start a whole new category.
Yeah, exactly. I think Perfect Day So I mean, to be honest, right? Like Perfect Day has been through a lot of changes through the past few years. We've been in business since 2014. So a long, long time, and we're widely considered the leader in the precision fermentation space of dairy proteins, and we're in the process too of building our first manufacturing plant, which is going to be the first precision fermentation manufacturing plant specifically designed for dairy proteins, which is going to be a huge moment for the industry as a whole.
Where would that be?
So we're actually building that in India. So that's going to be our India facility. We had some operations in India prior, and it was just the right fit. It's kind of our minimum viable product, we're calling it. So basically what we'll be able to be producing is we're going to start the plant up at 2,000 metric tons. It'll ramp up to 3,500 metric tons. We're currently at their supply side west pretty sold out. I mean, again, we were a hot topic because the the pricing's right, and it works in formulations that people are interested in, and people are seeing that plant as a competitive advantage in the space, right? So it really is a bit of an arms race.
Kind of how you said before, you can't switch in that WC80, so you're gonna, hey, this is
I mean, again, and if you're a clear whey or something like that where you can't get it, like it's gonna behoove you to be in the Perfect Day lineup, because this is our first plant. Well, my goal and my hope, to be honest, is to kind of select the core customer base for this first plant, and the goal is to support them, right? Like these are the brands that are took a risk, right? Or taking a risk to kind of work with Perfect Day, have been with us for some time. It wasn't always sunshine and rainbows at Perfect Day. Yeah. The market has helped us out.
Wasn't always a perfect day.
Yeah, it wasn't always a perfect day. And so,
it was a cloudy day sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think when you're a startup, right, and we had a good story and we told a really good story, but that story kind of falls flat after the first couple years, after the first few years goes by, because people go, that's a story. Talk to me when you're doing it. And I would say Perfect Day has kind of gone into incognito mode for the past 2 years, because we've been kind of focusing on actually having a real product, a real plant, a real, like bringing all this stuff to market. And we're done kind of with this rah, look at us, look how cool our story is, but our price is crazy. We can't make enough. It's all a great story, but if you can't really support your customers' growth, then who's going to say, oh yeah, I'm going to bet on you guys. So with this plant, it really will kind of be our coming out moment. And you'll start to see us a little bit more as we get closer to that, because we're going to be proud of what we did, essentially. So the plant is going to be a monumental achievement for, again, the industry as a whole.
Do you see the future of protein as multiple Perfect Day types, precision fermentation, versus just your WPC 80, WPI 90?
Yeah. So it's a really good question.
Going back to what you said, like multiple black boxes of specialty protein.
Yeah. So first and foremost, what I would say is this: like, I mean, my background is in food science. I grew up in Fresno, California, big ag industry, right? I went to school.
Bulldog?
No, I went to school at Cal Poly, actually.
Okay.
So San Luis Obispo, Mustangs, right high, and but grew up in the ag industry. Grew up with a food science degree from the ag department. Graduated college, went to Glambia, sold dairy proteins. The number one thing that I want to make sure people understand is that at Perfect Day, our stance is that we love dairy proteins. We in no way want to go out there and make people feel like we don't like dairy farmers. Yeah. We think that you guys are abusing cows, or we don't believe that at all. Everybody that's come through Perfect Day, including myself, like I said, have come from the big dairy producers. We had an all-star team of, Leprino, Hilmar, Milk Specialties, Actis. We've had Chobani. We've had people from all parts of the industry come work for Perfect Day because they believed in the dairy proteins and they thought that those were the best proteins to bring to market. But, we'd be kidding ourselves if we didn't think that we could make some, improvements or be able to subsidize the industry with a technology that can allow brands to have access to more of these really good dairy proteins. And, when I look at probably where the market's going to go, if I was a Hilmar, or if I was a Leprino, or if I was a Glambia, and what did we talk about when we started the episode? It was, they have cheese they have to sell, they have lactose they got to sell, they have calcium they got to sell. Why wouldn't I be interested in having a fermentation plant next to my regular plant? And if I'm making $12 a pound on WPI, why wouldn't I want more of that product without of all the other streams of product?
Way more profitable than calcium.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think that some of those, I think that the dairy industry was a little concerned with, Perfect Day at first. There was hesitation. But again, we don't see them as competition. We just see them as, we want to do the same thing as you guys, right? We're doing it a slightly different way, but we're not vilifying anybody in any way. Yeah, so, I mean, to answer your
different energy source.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's completely solving a problem, right? We don't have enough cows, we don't have enough milk, we have tons of demand for protein. And we're just thinking it from the US and European perspective, right? These people, we're actually very privileged to have just the capabilities we currently have. Now, if we went and said, for instance, we have a lot of interest in our protein in Israel, or we have interest in the Middle East, right? Or even in some other, even in India where the plant is, right? These are markets that, you would assume that in the desert in, Dubai,
They're not raising cows.
there's no cows.
Yeah.
They're camels. But what if we went to a country like that and we said, hey, look, we could give you access to great dairy proteins for a pretty reasonable price. And it gives you food security in your country. I mean, even in the US, there's a need for that, right? Like, there's, again, who knows what could happen. We've seen mad cow disease. We've seen a lot of things.
Actually, there was a cow disease from affecting cows down in Mexico that was moving up a few months ago.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it too a lot in the egg market, right? So avian flu has caused a lot of issues over the past few years with egg prices. So, I mean, there is something to be said about food security in the U.S. and in Europe, and on top of all the other things we talked about. But yeah, I mean, just to go back to your main question, do I see there being an ecosystem of fermentation companies? Absolutely, there has to be. I mean, like I mentioned, our Perfect Day plant is going to make 2,000 metric tons to start. That's a tremendous amount of protein for us. And for fermentation, again, it's never been done before. But
given the overall market,
it's
drop in the
it's not even close, man. Like I could sell that today. I mean, again, the conversations we were having at supply side where they would sample the product, they'd say, "Yep, this is good. How much can you make?" I tell them 2,000. They said, "We'll take all of it." I can't give it to you, all of it to you. So it's more of like, well, why isn't the plant bigger? So
to me, it seems a lot like the energy crisis. Obviously, we could keep using gas and fossil fuels, and that's not going anywhere. But there's a room for solar. There's room for windmills. There's room for water turbines.
Yeah. So what I sometimes what I would call our protein is I'd call it the Tesla of protein powders. So we use the analogy of the gas, but in reality, Perfect Day is a little bit more of a Tesla vibe, right? It's an emerging technology, which has all of the performance that you're looking for, right?
Completely.
It's high protein, super pure, no lactose, 37% more leucine, clear,
mixable,
all that stuff you want. It just happens to be super sustainable too, right? Like, so when somebody buys a Tesla, they buy it because it's 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. It drives itself, has a screen. It can watch Netflix.
Yeah, still gets you the same thing, low center of gravity.
Yeah. So, but it's also like or it's an electric vehicle. So, I think Perfect Day is in a sense is kind of in that kind of realm of a technology, but yeah, I mean, so there needs to be more precision fermentation companies out there. There are ones as well. I mean, there's brands like Vivici. There's quite a few others. There's companies that are doing different proteins. So we focus on beta-lactoglobulin. The beauty of precision fermentation is it's a bit of Pandora's box. So you can make any protein from fermentation. You just have to basically sort out how you get to cost, affordable costing. So so we've seen other brands like Onego Bio, which is an egg. They make egg white proteins. So, and egg whites, again, we talked about the avian flu being an issue. So their egg protein is unbelievably functional. It'll whip into a meringue in a second, just like a normal egg white would. And that makes it an incredible tool for egg replacement, right? So one thing that we see in the egg market is that everybody wants cage-free eggs. Well, how hard is it? In California, cage-free, you almost have to do it cage-free. That's like, the regulation here. But in other parts of the country, that's not the norm. So when you have companies come out and they say, we're going to switch to 100% cage-free, but they don't really know what that really means or what that's going to have to do to their supply chain. The only way they're going to do it is they're going to find some cage-free eggs. There's not enough for everybody. And then what they're going to do is they're going to utilize a technology like Onega Bio to buy fermented egg white, which is cage-free technically. And they're going to utilize that as an option. I've even had discussions with companies like Walmart or some of these brands who have eggs on shelf, right? So the question they're asking themselves is, do I want to have eggs out on the shelf for the customer for bacon and eggs, or do I want to bring those eggs into the bakery and make muffins? For the most part, they want them out on the shelves, right?
Yeah.
So if they can find an egg replacement that allows them to have the same quality of product back of house without utilizing the eggs that they're already bringing in, that's a win for them. So it's even something that, that's something that people don't even think about. But those are what these guys are trying to solve for.
Yeah. I want to throw out a little short take a spin real quick. How many protein suppliers are there in the supplement space in the U.S.? Major protein suppliers.
Man, there's a lot. I wouldn't be able to name them all, but I mean, the major ones are going to be a lot of the ones that we've talked about. So again, Glanbia is going to be the number one whey protein isolate producer in the U.S. They have multiple plants in Idaho and New Mexico and Michigan. They recently built a plant, I think back in 2018 or 19 in Michigan, which is pretty awesome. Now there's been some other, there's Hilmar, obviously in California. They've also just recently built a new plant, I think last year.
Milk Specialties.
Milk
right?
Specialties is a big one. Actis, right, the new brand name, and then Leprino. Leprino's a big one as well for the mozzarella. Again, they're doing a lot. They do native whey too, which is a little bit different as well. But you got AgroPure as well. It's probably the biggest of all of them overall, like across the board, different SKUs, different, butter, all that kind of stuff.
So when I'm going to a contract manufacturer, they're sourcing from all 5 or 6 of those protein suppliers?
Unless you're specifying you only want Glanbia or you only want Hilmar, then yeah, they're sourcing from not only those suppliers, but they're sourcing from other smaller suppliers, especially in a market like this. You got to have some flexibility, and you're going to have to kind of dig pretty deep. I mean, I work with some smaller producers who most people haven't even heard of, but yeah, they're definitely supplying loads to people and getting the job done where they got to get it done. But yeah, I think those are the major players in the space. Okay. Those are the guys you're going to see the most out there.
But you're telling me there's producers with maybe 2,000 cows also providing.
Yeah, or
PC80,
or you have blenders. So you have guys that are going to take different milk proteins. So they'll take a load from, Hilmar, and they'll take a load from Glanbia, and what they're doing is they're playing the spread. So they're buying, and they're saying, okay, we bought these loads in Q3, and we're going to blend them together to make a WPC or something, and we're going to do some math, and in Q4, when the price jumps up to $8, we're going to make 50 cents a pound or something like that. So they're playing this game of this blending game, which, to be honest, probably a lot of people, people that are buying protein know about this, but there's definitely a whole side of the business like that that's not talked about a lot, but is definitely
amino spiking.
And it's not amino spiking.
It's just arbitrage.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not amino spiking at all. It's not that. But it's just something that, again, they're blending to a specific specification, so they're hitting a specification. It is, technically, WPC 80, but it's not like maybe it wasn't originally that, maybe it was WPI and they blended it down into a WPC 80. So there's some things that people can do, especially in a market like this. It's definitely happening more. Even brands, big brands who do tons of protein can definitely, the reason why these brands, right, say you talk to a contract manufacturer and they go, man, how does, this company have this price? How are they holding this price at Costco or whatever? Well, they're buying so much protein that they're playing a whole different game than you. It's like when say you're a blue collar worker and you make $100,000 a year and you put 10% away in your S&P 500. and you go, man, I can never get ahead. You're playing a whole different game than the guy who's a multimillionaire, puts 10% away in the S&P 500, but the compounding effect of his nut is huge compared to yours. So it's and he's blaming, like, why isn't this strategy working for me, but it's working for them?
Even though there's still two sports nutrition brands, one is really still in retail, and the other one is buying bulk and buying commodities.
That's how we've had this question before. Like, how do certain protein products at Costco work? So you look at the price, like, where's the margins at for them?
Yeah, I mean, you've seen the Kirkland brand come out, right? I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's probably an unfair playing field somehow. So, but it's the name of the game. If you have an advantage, you have an advantage. So, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect. So at the end of the day, they're going to have to pass through costs at some point, right? Yes. Like the cost to produce or the cost to do whatever they're doing is going to go up, replacement costs, all that kind of stuff. So it will have to go up at some point.
At a player like Costco, the brand selling there and the consumer there, you could maybe go down 2 servings and the consumer wouldn't notice.
Sure. Well, yeah, and Costco too, right? I don't remember all the specifics with Costco, but Costco, first and foremost, if you shop at Costco, you're getting the best deal. The whole way that's set up, right? I think they take a 13% profit or a margin on all the products, which is way less than every other retailer. But they really require you to hit a certain threshold of value for the customer. So that's more servings or whatever cost, that equation, right? So really you're getting the best deal at Costco always, because they're not gouging you. They make money off their memberships, right? A lot of the times, and the hot dogs and all that kind of stuff. But like, they're not taking a massive profit margin, which is commendable, to be honest. And it does show you that they care about their members. I mean, if you compare that to, so let's put two different retailers, right? You go to Costco, you get all the value. They're not taking that much money off the top. You're getting more servings. You're getting the best price no matter what. You go to Target. What do you notice about the Target products?
They look nicer.
Way less servings, though. Like, unheard of serving sizes. Like 7 servings of protein, into this little tiny bottle that like is a branching amino acid bottle for protein or something. But that's a whole nother deal, right? Their brands are having to build a SKU to match a price point at Target and hit the margin that they're looking for. I mean, I think Target's taking 40% or something like that, and they won't even look at you unless you're hitting those types of numbers. So, and what are you going to do, right? You want to be in Target or not?
That's why, no wonder, because every time I'm in the Target aisle, it's like 18 servings, like 15.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm like, well, I'm gonna even 25.
But as us, right? We're the top 1% of people that notice that stuff. Yeah. But if I'm a mom who's like, oh, I saw this protein on TikTok, and you just pick it up and buy it. So.
Yeah, and they had it $60 on TikTok, $17 here at Target.
Yeah, exactly.
Grabbed it for you.
And I'll probably only, they only use it, 4 or 5 times, and then they forget about it or something. But
any questions you want to ask? We try to keep this like 45 minutes. I think we're at hour 15.
Okay, yeah. No, yeah, we've been definitely talking a lot.
Do we miss anything?
I think I learned a lot. I feel like the protein industry is a lot like the commodities industry.
I know Ken and I have fun.
It is, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the protein market is a commoditized market unless you're starting to look at, some of the specialty proteins. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a commodity market. It's all completely, from a sales perspective, right? It's a completely different sales cycle, completely different approach, right? Like, that's one thing that you have to build value into your products, and that's what we're trying to do at Perfect Day, functionality, all that kind of stuff. Because that's how you keep your customers, right? Yeah. Like, you don't want it to just be a price battle, because that's at the end of the day, that's not fun business.
So I had a chance to fly to St. John's, Canada, to visit Transparent Lab.
Yeah. Very familiar.
And he said, my advice to a brand right now, don't do protein, right? What would be your advice to a brand starting out?
Oh, man. Yeah. I think...
Is it the same thing? Don't do protein?
I think unless you have something really, really special, like I said, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible. I mean, like, we've seen Genius Shot, we've seen these protein soda companies come out, but you got to be well funded and you got to know what you're kind of doing. I mean, you look at like Genius Gourmet, for instance, is the protein soda that's in Costco. 30 grams of protein.
Wow.
I'm pretty positive the Genius Gourmet guy's former like Premier Protein, so it's not his first rodeo. Like he knows the market, he knows what he's doing, he knows that he has a competitive advantage in the soda or shot or something that is you have less competition, right? If you want to go launch a ready to mix protein powder and compete with Transparent Labs, who has brand equity for days, you're gonna have a tough time. So yeah, I think that it's a challenging market. I think, I think it's tough. You definitely have to have something special, or you have to be providing some sort of value to the customer that they can't get somewhere else.
Or don't do protein as your first SKU.
Maybe. Again, I'm a big.
You just got to work with Kyle.
Yeah, I'm a big protein guy. So, I mean, I hate to say that it's impossible, but because I'm working with brands every day that are doing it. But again, I think you got to get creative. I think you got to think about different use cases. I think you got to think about protein plus. You got to think about how do we take some of the stuff that we're seeing from some of these other brands.
I think something you hit on the head too was that GLP-1 segment, because I've seen some stuff they have like snacks for GLP-1, but in my mind I didn't think that. Oh yeah, you want a small snack that's high protein and
packs a punch
because they're not as
hungry.
I didn't think about it.
I know that's so crazy because I'm hungry right now.
No, it legit. Like again, I can't think of somebody today that I would go, that's the GLP-1 brand or whatever, right? Like I know there's people doing it. I just can't think of anybody off the top of my head. But I mean, again, there's definitely markets out there. But I think you got to get creative with the occasion. I think what do we talk about? You got to get, I think we got to take a step back as people who've been in the supplement industry for so long and people who love 20, 30, 40 grams of protein. Again, and you got to move the needle on, hey, what if we came out with the LaCroix with 10 grams of protein? The cost works. It doesn't exist. Maybe that's a great idea, right? So, I mean, there's definitely opportunity out there, but you can't go out there with today and be like, oh, I'm going to be the next Transparent Labs or be the next Optimum Nutrition.
Yeah, it's hard to say that though, because I think we all could see that it's not going anywhere. It's only going to grow. Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, you're seeing, again, you got to get creative. We're seeing people, like we talked about, incorporate collagen proteins into clear whey to try to help their cost. You're seeing beef proteins becoming popular, man. Like beef protein out of nowhere. You have the Equip. I mean, that brand's blown up. They rebranded, beautiful product. They're very, very clean label. That product seems to be resonating well. Weirdly enough, I feel like it resonates a lot with women because I think women have a hard time with dairy protein, sometimes stomach issues and all this kind of stuff. So I've seen a lot of beef protein products hitting the market. I saw, what's that brand in Europe? ANS or what's that? Is that it? They just launched a beef isolate RTD.
Oh,
so again, I think there's
cost an arm and leg.
Well, the beef isolates are cheaper than WPI. Same with collagen, right? So you're probably going to have it's probably 50% cheaper than WPI. So that's why people are starting to look at alternatives,
innovate or different
or blend, right? To get it to a point where you're still meeting a protein target, but you're not getting killed on price or just to extend your supply, right? Yeah. If I can't get enough clear whey, well, what are my options? Either I stop producing, which for most brands isn't an option, or I cut my product with 50% collagen and I extend my WPI supply by 50%. So, right, these are the problems they're trying to solve. So, yeah, I mean, I would say that there's still definitely, there's still opportunity, but I wouldn't say like you want to go out and launch another 20 servings of 25 grams of protein. Yeah. Like that's going to be chocolate a tough sell. Yeah.
Last question. You've been in the industry long. Last question. You've been in an industry quite some time. I mean, you've seen brands come and go. What do you think, in your own opinion, has separated the ones who made it versus the ones who almost made it?
Oof, man. Oh, man, it's a good question. That's a tough one. I mean, some of the brands that I look at, that I just get amazed by, and I'll point out a couple here actually. So some newer brands maybe, right? So one, I think we talked about Tyler and Salud, right? I mean, one, they have been unbelievable in terms of creating a really great tasting product and servicing a completely different population. So for those who don't know Salud is a hydration stick pack company, not that dissimilar to say a liquid IV, but what they did is they went out and they targeted the Latino, customer base, which has been, nobody's ever done that before.
And primarily female Latinos. Right?
Yeah. And so they came out and they did dual benefit stick pack products, that were flavored in aguas frescas flavors. And they've created a movement, man. Like you watch that brand and you go, dude, nothing's going to stop this brand because the community is just behind it, man, now. So like you see a brand like that and they found the magic in the community and servicing a population that was just, didn't have any products, developed for them specifically. So I think that is super, super interesting. I think you look at drum roll donuts here. This is a plant-based donut.
Oh, wow.
But when we talk about bars, right, I think the only way you can really stand out in bars is to come out with something that is not a bar. So drum roll donuts here is they have a 100% plant-based donut. It's 3 donuts, 190 calories, 10 grams of protein.
13 grams of fat, but it's
Hey,
mostly poly and mono.
Since it's only 190 calories, and the thing with bars is you have to think about, or let's call it ready to eat category. Oh yeah, they're awesome. So the ready to eat category, you got to think about how is someone going to enjoy this product, right? That's why protein cereal works well. Yeah, look at that. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, that's
I was
like
hungry.
a hostess.
Here we go. What do we think?
That works.
That works.
Do you know the owners?
I'm familiar with that.
Can we get wholesale pricing?
Yeah. No, we'll set you up. Yeah. But yeah, Drumroll again is doing a really good job of just bringing something different to the table, right? So, I think there's a lot of fatigue with bars. If you go to a bar, just like if you went to a protein powder market, right? There's a million of them. There's too many. Yeah. But if you come with something that's completely different and you're enjoying eating it, and you go, man, I kind of feel like I'm cheating, but you're not cheating too much.
Dude, that is delicious for low calorie, reasonably calorie.
Yeah,
donut.
It is low calorie. You don't have to eat the whole thing.
Yeah, 190. Well, it's only 65 each, right? 63 each.
Well, the way I think of it too is like, again, these products we're high protein users. We're like, man, give us all the protein we got. But this is a product where like a mom picks that up and gives it to their kids because it's got 10 grams of protein. It's pretty clean. It's plant-based. It's, I can put it in their lunch. They'll love it. They don't even know it has protein in it. So I think it's a little bit of a different customer base. And the only time I get concerned with stuff like this is when it gets to like 360 calories. You're like, whoa, okay, we're getting a little bit up there. Yeah, you might as well. Yeah, so I think it's right in that realm. But again, I think they're doing a good job of a different experience with the product. I think again, Genius, a different experience. Soda's different experience, different use occasion. I think that's really how you're going to stand out and ultimately have success, right? I think all these standard products have been done. The protein powders, pre-workouts, that stuff's, there's a million of them on the market. So how do you stand out? You got to come to market with something that, there's not as much competition in, which if you can figure out how to do 3 mini donuts in a sleeve, that's probably one of the hardest things I've ever seen.
200 calories.
That's one of the hardest things I've ever seen anybody do, to be honest, because knowing what I know from a contract manufacturing standpoint, there's not very many people that can even do this. And to be able to do that and be where they're at, it's a huge achievement for sure. They even came out with some mini muffins as well. So yeah, it's a really it's a great product. And talk about a brand that also does a really good job marketing. They really cool marketing as well. But yeah, I look at those two brands and I'm just like pretty all these brands I'd say that we've brought, as well as the Salud brand, and I go, man, those guys are crushing it, and they have a little bit of magic that not every brand has.
Yes.
And if I knew how to recreate that magic, I'd have a lot of money, I think. But those guys are doing a good job, that's for sure.
Dude, Kyle, thanks for making a trek up from Vista.
Yeah, you got it.
One of my most favorite counties because of, beer. I think Ken and I were super stoked to just learn more about protein. Because even us working in this space for however long, like when we get to like the granular details of, protein, we're like, cool. But to hear it and learn it all today, I know I had a lot of fun.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure the end user is gonna be like, "Whoa, what? That's what's going on in protein. This is how much it costs."
Yeah.
So at least when they see the final end product, they're not like, "Holy crap, they're ripping me off." Like, no, this is how much it costs now.
For sure. Yeah, and it's been great to talk about it. I think it's something that doesn't get talked about as much. I think we covered a lot of stuff. So, but yeah, definitely thank you for having us. And if anybody else if you guys are interested in learning about Perfect Day or any of those types of things,
we'll put all your contact information in the notes.
We'd love to talk to some people, and maybe we got to do some collaborations on some astragin. I think.
Yeah. Or just hook me up with more of those donuts.
Yeah, dude, I'll hook you up. I'll get some donuts for you. We'll get you some muffins too. All right, dude. Yeah.